If you've spent any significant amount of time on the internet, which I'm assuming you have if you're watching this, you've probably run into the idea of the parasocial relationship. Coined originally in 1956 by Donald Horton and R. Richard Wohl, the term has seen widespread usage over the past 5 or so years. Side note, Horton and Wohl's essay is very interesting. Though it's flawed, dated, and doesn't really draw a lot of conclusions, I think it's worth a read for a cool snapshot of 70 years ago and how media was perceived. I'll include a link in the description if you're curious. Moving on, it seems that parasocial relationship is generally used as a pejorative term. The term itself kind of hints at that. The Greek prefix para, meaning two of, that's a really fucking dumb joke. Prefix para, which means kinda. Essentially, it means adjacent to, but not quite. Para, meaning adjacent to, but not quite. And social, meaning relating to the interaction of people. The word essentially implies that it's a broken form of a relationship, and the talk we have surrounding it only supports that idea. Ludwig's video, I Am Not Your Friend, talks a lot about another video essay someone made about parasocial relationships and the many issues with them. He talks very understandably about the fact that he doesn't know his viewers. They're just usernames on a screen, which if you've spent any time watching Twitch or YouTube live streaming, you know they scroll by way too fast for you to even know a small percentage of them. He talks about people building unhealthy ideas of a relationship, feeling as though they're owed something from him. And it's not just Ludwig. A ton of other people have concerns with and speak about the dangers of parasocial relationships. But I have to wonder, are there potentially positive effects of parasocial relationships? I'm no researcher or expert, but I guess I want to tell a couple quick personal anecdotes, which have caused me to kind of rethink this modern day phenomenon. In 2016, I started college in Rexburg, Idaho. I was a recently returned Mormon missionary, and I was lost. I'd just come from a very scheduled and sure routine, and was finally let loose in the world within the confines of my extremist morality to kind of do whatever I wanted. And I didn't really know what that was. I was planning on majoring in English, and I was excited to start making music again and maybe form a band. And I was definitely very horny, so I wanted to be in a relationship. But I was discovering who I was, and my worldview was changing really, really fast. One thing that did keep me going was getting back into all the music that I'd missed while I'd been gone for 2 years. Chance the Rapper's acid rap and coloring book, a bunch of old melodic hardcore and emo records, Kanye West's then recent release The Life of Pablo, Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly. I discovered so much wonderful new music, and my love and appreciation for hip-hop in particular was growing more and more every day. But nothing hit me quite as hard as returning to the works of a musician I had loved, but whose maybe most impactful album I'd been too busy to listen to while I was getting ready to serve God. Childish Gambino. I found very quickly that many of my feelings had already been expressed by Donald Glover's musical persona. They were words of a man more lonely in his head than in actuality. Though often surrounded by friends and groups that cared for me, I felt like an outcast. When I was spurned by a crush, the Childish song Heartbeat was there to share my anger and sadness. When I was feeling good, Bonfire and Sweatpants and The Worst Guys were there to share my bravado and pump my ego. When I observed the world and struggled to piece together what I was looking at, Childish had already voiced my confusion. I felt seen. I felt heard. I felt understood by someone who had no clue that I existed. I think I pretty quickly became known as the Gambino guy. When Awaken My Love released that November, I was woken up by my YouTube notifications, and I was probably one of the first few thousand people to listen to the album. When Atlanta released, I kept up with every episode, despite my busy college schedule and not having a legal way to access the show. This continued, and to an extent, still continues today. Gambino is my favorite artist, and might always be. Donald Glover is, in some ways, my hero. I own Funko Pops because of him. Funko Pops, the most soulless collectible of all time. Fucking anything for you, Donald, I guess. I could wax further about my love of Donald's work, but that's not really why we're here. I have, I believe, a parasocial relationship with Donald Glover. And it may not have started this way, but I believe that I have a healthy understanding of what that means and how it's allowed to impact my life. Donald Glover doesn't know who I am, and in all likelihood, he never will. But I have a minor understanding of who he is through my interpretation of his art. I can see his worldview. I can empathize with his struggles. Is my interpretation of him 100% accurate? Almost certainly not, but I'm aware of that as well. And you know what? If it makes life easier to go, well, at least Donald understands me, then that's okay. He doesn't actually have to know me as long as I can remain aware of that fact and I don't expect it to change in any way. And I think that this has been the general purpose of celebrity for a really long time. We elevate people and give them ridiculous amounts of money because we see something relatable or desirable about them. Strong, beautiful, talented, funny, creative, rich people are all propped up as some sort of goal for society. I don't necessarily know if that's a good thing. Anyway, moving back onto my stories, to the beginning of this year when I got COVID. It started on a rough day, my 4th wedding anniversary to be precise. My wife and I were very excited to go to a theme park because we both love roller coasters. But we traveled the nearly 2 hours to get to the theme park and discovered that none of the rides were open because it was too cold and windy for Texas. Yay. We thought, all right, that sucks. We'll find something else to do. We started the trip kind of back home, 2 hours again, but like 15 minutes into it, found that we had a really terrible flat tire. And it was a Sunday. So we spent time in a town we don't know, trying to find a shop that was open that would have a chance to fix our tire. It fucking sucked. But we did get it fixed, and we finally managed to make it back home and have an easy dinner. But I noticed I had something of a sore throat. Throughout work the next day, that just got worse and worse and worse. And when I finally got to the end of my shift and arrived home, I told my wife, hey, if I'm not feeling significantly better tomorrow, I need to go get COVID tested. I woke up the next morning, and oh boy, was it worse. Holy shit. To cut the rest of the story short, because it's not the important part, I had COVID. And that meant I was going to be confined to our spare bedroom for the next 10 days. And I felt awful. I have met a lot of people who had minor cold and flu-like symptoms when they had COVID. I'm happy for them, because holy shit, mine kicked my ass. Every breath felt like gargling hot coals. My muscles were so weak that I would leave the comfort of my inflatable mattress for only 30 minutes at a time to eat or use the restroom or sit at my computer and wish that I had the energy to make music. But for all my boohooing, there were 2 things that really helped me get through this tough spot. I mentioned one of them actually already, briefly, Ludwig, the streamer extraordinaire, and Smaller, the arguable master of gaming challenges. I have to go get ready for work. I'll finish this up later in a different shirt. It's been a few days. It got cold in Texas. Where was I? Ludwig and Small Ant, and being sick with COVID. Watching these internet creators very quickly became my only thing to do when I was awake. And because I was watching them from my mattress on the floor, it became a big part of the reason I tried to sit up longer and longer throughout the day. I wanted to be able to see them better. Now, I'm not going to hit you with the whole "they saved my life" thing, because they very clearly didn't. But their creations and personalities definitely helped me get through a very tough time. They also are a big part of the reason I decided to try streaming and take YouTube a little bit more seriously. I'm grateful to them. And even though I can't say I feel the same amount of connection as I do to Gambino, their work means a lot to me, and I actively look forward to watching it. And it's weird, but I do have a relationship with them in a sort of way. Just not one that they will ever know about. Though that could change. Fuck, it's gonna take so long to get this off my head. No. That relationship, even though I don't expect them to know or do anything about me, is parasocial. I value them. They are unaware of my existence. As long as I can hang on to that crucial fact, I think that's perfectly okay. They've helped me in some way. So I guess my argument here is for a changed understanding of what a parasocial relationship can be. I think we can all agree that celebrity obsession, worship, or just a general lack of understanding of personal barriers is a bad thing. But that isn't all that parasocial relationships are, I think. We can have a degree of appreciation, admiration, or maybe even a small amount of affection for people we don't know. I think in a lot of ways, this comes back to the definition of art that I like to use. I define art as anything created for the purpose of sharing a piece of yourself, your perception, understanding, or worldview, with the intent that someone else can experience and understand it. In that way, art has kind of always had a purpose of linking two people together that will never meet and changing them in some way. And art has been a key part of society long since before the internet, television, even celebrity have existed. And that, I think, could be defined as a sort of parasocial relationship. Look, the Wikipedia page for parasocial interaction is a little tough to interpret. And like so many things in life, I think a lot of my issues come down to semantics. I want to define things one way that others maybe do not. I think most researchers in the field would call what I have here parasocial interaction with these artists and creators instead of a parasocial relationship, as I don't actually believe them to be my friends. Though we probably would be friends if we met in real life because they would realize how cool I am. I'm kind of going off the rails. I guess what I'm saying is like a romantic relationship and a friendship are only two small relationships that people can have. We have all sorts of relationships with all sorts of people that we do and don't know. And I think it's important that we consider these and look for the positive benefits and be wary of the potential negatives of taking them too far. I think I really just wanted an excuse to talk about some people who have made work that's important to me. Can parasocial relationships be good? Fuck if I know. I'm gonna go try and get this shit off my head.